Hey Elliot, how's it going?
Pretty good. How are you, Josh?
Well, I'm doing okay, but I've got a couple questions and rolling around in my head that I'm struggling to find the answers to. And I was thinking, why not put this into our podcast? Because whenever we had the bright idea to record these conversations, it was whenever we were having a similar conversation where we're just like bouncing ideas off of each other. And I remember one of us said, we ought to record these conversations because they might be beneficial to either reflect on or perhaps even helpful for somebody else. So I think I'll just go ahead and throw this one out there to you is that we've talked in the past about how I have retired, but my wife is still working. And for quite some time, I've been kind of pestering her about when does she think she's going to leave full-time work. And I keep telling her, hey, we have plenty of assets. We have plenty of money. We're in a good situation. You don't need to keep working full-time. And for the longest time, she has not really given too much feedback regarding that, but over a vacation that we just had, she kind of alluded to she's she's not really sure of the mechanics of what that will look like. So she's used to seeing every other week she gets her paycheck and it's more than enough to pay our bills and fund our lifestyle. So she doesn't know what we're going to draw from to replace that. So I was thinking maybe we can kind of start to talk through that together and at a high level, maybe we can decide on what homework or assignments I need to have, whatever thoughts you might have, and we can get back together in a few weeks and I would be happy to share real numbers and talk through the real details of my situation so that we can hopefully come together and at least have a better idea of what I can share with Lori to put her in a better understanding of what our situation could look like.
Yeah, I think that sounds like a great idea. I know just the overall concept of withdrawal strategy is talked about more than it used to, but I would still certainly say that it's a topic that isn't discussed at great length in the community as a whole right now. So certainly excited to walk through kind of that case study for you guys and really make sure that we always want to make sure that we're keeping our partners and people that we love in the loop and make sure that they understand in the same way that we feel like we understand is how many times I've talked through something and Dawn's asked me, well, how does that work? And I kind of sit there and go, oh, let me get back to you, you know? So I totally understand that it's one of the fundamental reasons that we started this podcast, like you said, is to be able to bounce things off of each other and really work through those situations in our lives that obviously are causing us some additional thought. And kind of along with that, I have my own quandary that I too am committing to coming back in a few weeks and doing a deeper dive on is in the episode that we just recorded, I alluded to it that Dawn and I have thought about the idea of moving to a bigger house. However, we really enjoy the neighborhood that we're in. We really like the schools that our kids attend. And so the thought of leaving all of that is not something we really want to entertain. And even just moving within the school district to say just to a bigger house, really the qualifications for us has been if we our house is really a 3 bed 2 bath. If we were to move to a 4 bed 2 bath that is 2,000 square feet is really what we're trying to look for. The price tag on that is I'll say the number out loud. It's astronomical. It's like $850,000. Is like
Wow.
that's what the cost of new construction really is around here. And it's not even that we're looking for new construction 2,000 square feet. It's just the fact that in our neighborhood it was built in the the mid 50s, early 50s. And so a lot of the lots are, either turning over and they're doing demo of the original house and they're
Smaller
building
houses.
McMansions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or they're smaller houses. And so a house of 2,000 square feet like does not exist. So
Yeah.
our house today is just over 1,200 square feet. We do have a finished basement, so that does add a lot of quote unquote square footage to it, even though, like the room that I'm sitting in is in the basement. Previously, I'm sure was used as a bedroom, but there's no means of egress in this room, so can't legally be called a bedroom. That is the problem that Don and I are trying to solve, is going through the analysis of, do we stay in our current house, and what does the timeline to FI look like if we take that action? If we move to a $850,000 house, what does that look like? Is that something that we even want to entertain? If we were to do an addition, what's that cost and how does that change the timeline?
Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of opportunity for research for both of these situations, for both of our issues, if you will. And I don't mean to necessarily piggyback off of your own thought exercise that you're working through, but we actually have a housing quote unquote problem, if you will, that we're contemplating as well, where we would like to potentially move to a more desirable area. I mentioned before, we live in a really small town. It's fine, it's safe. It was good for the kids while they were in school, a decent neighborhood, but it doesn't offer all the amenities that we would like to have in a town. And we could find a
Libraries.
yeah, library like we talked about in the last episode. We could move to a town that's just 15 minutes away that checks pretty much all the boxes, but we just haven't really found the right house yet. And typically it's because we've been looking at smaller homes. We're actually in the opposite end of the spectrum where we're thinking about downsizing a little bit because our house is about 2,000 square feet. Maybe we should just trade, Elliot. No, different school districts, that wouldn't work. Our house is about 2,000 square feet with 4 bedrooms and 3 baths, but we would be okay with something a little bit smaller, but those are hard to find in the area that we're looking for without it being like something that's a big fixer upper, or it's not gonna have be in the best quote unquote like subdivision or area. So again, similar to situation that you're describing, do we trade up a little bit in the form of cost and maybe a little bit more square footage that we don't really need, but to be in an area that we'd prefer to be in? So that's something that I would like to work through as well. And then also, I don't know if it would be beneficial for you at all, but it sounds like you were kind of thinking through the mechanics of what that different trade-off for housing could mean for you. And so maybe you would be looking at something similar when it comes to your withdrawal strategy for your own future and how that could be affected by this decision for housing.
Yeah, absolutely. And Josh, there's a house for sale right down the street. So,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
you are in a great area. I would not mind living there, but I think it would be a hard sell for my wife.
Well,
So
very good. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm excited about this kind of sub series, so to speak. But yeah, excited for these future conversations to dive into these, things that we're facing in our lives, and would love to bring the audience along.
yeah, I
Is there
agree.
anything else that you want to say before we kind of wrap?
I guess I don't know if I mentioned it already or not, but I think it would be something that I can bring in the specific details and numbers associated with where I currently stand as far as net worth and amounts of money in certain accounts and where to draw from. So it'll be less. I think I see, maybe this is beneficial for audiences, but I see this a lot. I think you alluded to it as well, is I see it a lot in the podcast where people just talk about like 4%. Oh, you have $1 million net worth, 4%, $40,000. No problem. But when it comes right down to it, most of us aren't going to be that, it's not going to be that black and white where all of that money is in a brokerage account that you can just easily withdraw $40,000 from, and the next year, $41,000, whatever that might be. Ours is all over the place. It's in different types. We have taxable accounts, tax deferred accounts. It's all over the place. So I could easily go to a financial advisor, and I probably will do that just for at some point for another set of eyes. But I think this will be beneficial just to get your perspective on it and talk through it, because I mentioned to you before we started recording, it's like a giant jigsaw puzzle that I'm pretty sure I have all the right pieces to put it together. I just don't have the best visual to be able to refer to see how all these pieces line up together, and I don't know exactly which strategy to use. Like, do I go with all the corners first and the perimeter, or do I choose this picture of a person that I can easily put together? You know how you put together a puzzle, but that's all kind of just rolling around in my head. And if it doesn't make sense to me, it's not going to make sense to my wife, and I need to be able to have it make sense to both of us so that we can both be confident in making that decision.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that makes perfect sense and really excited for those conversations.
Cool. Well, thanks. We'll see where it goes. Thanks a lot, Elliot.
Yeah. Thanks.